Hey everybody, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Soundcheck. This is Brent.
And this is Walter.
It's Friday, October 7th, 11:43 p.m. p.m. And we just got out of Union Stage in Washington, D.C., seeing Rivers of Nihil and the Contortionist.
Oh my God, yeah, that show was super awesome. I've seen Rivers of Nihil multiple times before, and they've never disappointed me at all. And to say today I wasn't disappointed at all. I did notice the singer wasn't with them today, though. I don't know if he left tour early, or if he was ever on. I have no idea what's going on with that. But I think they played their set really well, instrumentally, and the bassist and drummer like still keeping up with their parts. They played you're good. The work in its entirety, and beforehand, just on the flyer, it said the show started at 8. But when we got to this venue, the show had been already halfway through with the work, and me and Brent were Brent and Onena were very confused why that was happening, because in the flyer said the show started at 8, and then talking to a few people like after the show, apparently since DC has really strict sound laws, the show had to be over at 11, so they started the show around 7:30. And I had no idea. Like, we just finished eating our meal like normal. We just finished parking, which parking sucked. Like, we were in the garage, and then we could only like find one parking, and then that was like to the far end of the parking lot, which we found a spot. It's cool. But yeah, like, the sound today was a little muddy from the back, at least, for Rivers of Nihil. Nothing you can really do. It's a super small venue, super tight, and I can tell like not a lot of people were that energetic for Rivers. I used to see them as like a very progressive metal band. They do have their heavy moments. In fact, when they played more, like, I wanted a pit to start, but nothing happened, to be honest. I think a lot of people were saving their energy for Exoplanet, which the Contortionists played 2 whole albums in their entirety. They played Language and Exoplanet, and those are like essential albums in my opinion. They're great. Like, at first as a kid, I did not get into Exoplanet because I was just a deathcore kid, but then eventually I came around and then understood that there was a different light at the end of the tunnel. That light was ethereal.
I was bummed to miss the songs Focus and Clean from the work. I'm not familiar enough with the band to know the band members, so like I didn't know if the main vocalist was missing. It seemed the bassist was covering the main vocals, and then the rhythm guitarist and the drummer was doing backup stuff, which I always think is super cool when a drummer is like singing and drumming at the same time, that lung power. But yeah, it was a bummer to miss half of the work, because that album, like you said, it's like about an hour, and we saw a half hour of it, so we missed half of it. But yeah, I thought they sounded great. Moshes really should have come out for them. They were super heavy. They're like death metal with some prog. The saxophone was really prominent, and they had some moments that were just like really grand, especially towards the end of the set. They just had these like breakdowns that just kept like it just kept repeating and getting like slightly louder and heavier with each one. It was really awesome. Yeah, I only really know the work and the album that came before it. It's like Owls.
Where Owls Know My Name. That's the album that got me into Rivers really hard, and then I thought the work was great. Like a great follow-up album after that. I believe they were recording that album during COVID, and then I think the band members were like struggling to record that album. I think they felt like little unmotivated at times, like thinking if they were ever going to like perform again, or like they just feel like didn't want to do it. But eventually they pushed through, and I think the work, they put in the work to put in this album. But I think that's literally what the album is about, like putting your heart and soul and effort, and then like kind of like giving your soul away to like corporate needs or whatever, and like kind of being a slave to like an entity that I don't know. I'm just bullshitting right now.
I was buying it. You shouldn't have doubted yourself. I don't know what song it was, but the Contortionists bassist Jordan Eberhardt joined them for like a brief little moment on vocals, which, you know, that's always wild when these musicians pull out like multiple instruments or talents that I wasn't expecting. You know, I didn't know he could just, you know, belt it out and scream. That was cool.
It sounded really cool, actually. I thought, I was like, oh, is he about to like finish the album for them? But then he just did it for like the very end of More, which I think was one of my favorite songs off that album. Like, it's just hard hitting. It's just like straight up tech death, and it's just like grindy, grind like in your face, like kick your ass riffs that like literally give you an eargasm, I guess, to really describe it, just because it's like it's hypnotizing, you're energetic, and then you're just like and then you just got to start a pit. But unfortunately, no pit really happened for for Rivers, which I was a little disappointed. But I think most of when the crowd started trickling in, I thought a lot of them were like confused as well, because like the flyer stayed 8 o'clock, but then like Union stage started at 7:30 or 7 o'clock, so it's kind of like I blame the venue for that. I think that was a little messed up, but they could have like at least corrected, send an email like shows needs like a follow-up email is like, hey, update, show needs to start at 7 or 6:30, and everyone could have planned accordingly, you know. Yeah, that's all I got for Rivers.
Yeah, I was going to say follow up on Rivers was just, I like the variety with them. They just, you know, they got moments where it's just straight up death metal. You know, you've got your solos and your meaty tone. Then they've got some prog. They'll have these like, you'll have these like calm passages, and then like the saxophone and the keyboard. I don't know. They got a lot going on. They've got a nice ebb and flow through their songs.
I agreed. Yeah, no, like I was able to hear the sax really well, like through some of the songs, and I was just pretty happy for that. Like I saw them headline with like Fallujah and Alluvial like a few months ago, and like that whole band was just super tight. They played at the Metro Gallery, and it was a fantastic show. I really thought they really brought it all there, and today they brought it all. They brought it all as well. It's just little few mishaps, the vocalist being absent, and I think the venue starting early, so I don't think they really got the crowd they really wanted at the time they started. And I thought it was really cool. Like they actually brought out the synths that they have on that album. I believe Brody, who's one of the guitarists, like takes breaks every once in a while from playing the guitar to actually work on the keyboard, and like just provide the synths that you really hear on that album. And seeing an album performed live to that extent, I was pretty impressed, to be honest. Like I thought they were just gonna use backing tracks for the most part, but no, he brought out the core. I don't know if it was a Korg, I can't really say that. But anyway, he brought out the keyboard, and I thought it was really awesome. I guess it was an 808 synth or something. I don't know. Leave a comment down below if you know what it is.
Yeah, I was really excited for this show. You know, just two bands, small venue, both bands, their entire sets being just whole albums, which I love just hearing an entire album live. I think that's the coolest thing. And yeah, for the Contortionist, they did Language first, took a little break, and then Exoplanet. And yeah, I remember like during the COVID lockdown, they did those live streams that you could pay for and tune into, except they did Exoplanet and I think Clairvoyant. I don't think they did Language, because they've played that a bunch live. Oh, yeah. And so yeah, they were excited to get back at it. And I'm glad with Exoplanet they did play it in full, because when they did the live stream, for whatever reason, they didn't play Contact and I think something else. They like swapped them out with songs from Intrinsic. And I was worried they were going to do that, because I've always wanted to hear Contact live, and I finally got to tonight. I didn't even really take notes for Contortionist, other than I noticed that Cameron Maynard wasn't there, and you mentioned it was because his father passed away.
Yeah, his father passed away, so it's understandable that he wasn't on tour. So it was just Robbie and Jordan, Mike, and Joey. I forget the keyboardist's name too, to be honest.
Eric Gunther.
There we go. They were just all by themselves, but they all handled each other's parts really well. They didn't really even have a backing track for Cameron's part, to be honest. I kind of think they knew the parts well enough that they didn't need it to continue the show. I think the show you were going to get the experience regardless if he was there or not. And of course, like, I'm sure they wish that he was there performing, but family comes first, especially with a hard-hitting loss like that. So it's understandable that he had the dip. So they opened up with Language. Fantastic album. I thought they were going to end with Language, to be honest, because it's like you want to get the whole energy out. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how they even planned it. Or like maybe like just start calm, something easy, super proggy, and then get to the caveman core. Caveman riding a spaceship, as I like to say. Language is, I don't know, one of the albums that kind of like changed me musically as a person. Like kind of made me want to dive in deeper into like their influences and like kind of like what made them write their riffs, or like who inspires them. And then I decided to check, mostly jazz from there. But it was pretty tight. Seeing an album performed like start to finish, beautiful. There wasn't really a pit for that show, for that album. There's not really that many pity songs.
Yeah. Yeah, there's only a couple heavy moments in it. I was grooving with it. Language might very well be my all-time favorite album, or like at least album I've listened to the most ever. Just throughout the years, that's something I still go back to. It's like quintessential what I want from like a prog album. And once Dillinger left the scene, I thought maybe my favorite band was going to be Car Bomb or Meshuggah, and I kind of tried that on for a little bit, but ultimately I think it's the Contortionist. I just love them, just the way they're evolving, and I just love everything they've put out. Even things that didn't click immediately, I like in time came to love it. On my personal YouTube channel before even Soundcheck, I did 2 album reviews, one for Language and one for Clairvoyant recently. So check those out if you want to. Yeah, I didn't take any notes for it. I love them all. I was in the mosh, I think, for most of it.
Once Primal Directive started, that's when the cavemen started coming out. It was just kind of like a nonstop pit for that entire album, except for Axiom, which is like their acoustic song within the album. I guess acoustic break. Very beautiful song. And if someone were to mosh for it, I would be kind of like disappointed. Like something you just kind of enjoy and just take in, and just kind of like enjoy the moment. There's a break, and then
Something be sacred.
Yeah, it's super sacred. And then after that, they went into Exoplanet 1, 2, and 3, which hearing that in its entirety, finally, after all these years of like following that band, seeing that band, I guess progress from like Baltimore Soundstage or Sonar. I know Soundstage, I think, or both. I probably saw them at both. And then seeing them now at Union Stage playing that entire, like, I guess, childhood album in its entirety, really tight. There was a lot of cavemen there. like just people starting the pit, all types of like even like styles of moshing. They went from like two-stepping to like, you know, push moshing, and then there was a circle pit at some point. It might have been for contact or something. But yeah, I mean, there was a one girl there with the sandals like moshing, and I thought that was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you going to? I guess you can have the balls to go in there with sandals. Hopefully, don't get your feet stomped and broken. But I mean, she did it. She lost her sandal like twice or something, and I think she decided to stay on the edge. Yeah, I thought that the pit was awesome. I was sweaty.
Profusely even. I was super excited to hear some of those songs we haven't heard live before for both albums. You know, like with Language, they've played Language 1 and Primordial Sound live before, but to hear like The Parable and I think like Integration, like it was cool to finally hear those live. And then for Exoplanet, they've ended sets before on Flourish, but it was banging to hear Primal Directive, Contact finally, and I think it's Oscillator that has that like unbelievable breakdown in it. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I took a video of that and I almost like threw my phone out of my hand. I was just like thrashing around and I kind of forgot I was holding my phone, and then I had to like clench it real hard.
Some person was losing their phone left and right. Like, hold on to your phone. Get a pocket or something. Don't lose your phone.
Yeah, that was super fun. I mean, that was I can only compare to that like recent Rollo Tomasi show in terms of fun. I thought I was going to have a bunch to say, but I don't know. I could kind of gush on the Contortionist forever, but they were solid. They I didn't feel like their sound was lacking without Cameron. Like they were able to fill in all the parts, but it you know, it just might have taken a little more effort on their part. And so like I don't know if it was noticeable Cameron was gone, but I definitely would have liked it if he was there, just to hear like the full impact of the cohesiveness between them all and what they can bring.
I did notice like they didn't really have any. Well, maybe they did, and I wasn't paying attention. But like back in Cameron's parts, backing track, because like during some parts of what was it, like the volume swell part? There's a certain delay that goes on before Robbie did the lead to kind of like start building up the solo, and just kind of sounded super ethereal.
Crescendo?
No. It just kind of it has like a dotted delay thing going on for it. It just sounded beautiful. If I on the car ride home, I'll put it on and then you'll kind of understand what I'm saying. Okay. But yeah, I think like there's some parts that were if you noticed that if you listen to album front to back and you know some parts were missing, yeah, I thought it was pretty obvious. Also, shouts out to Daddario for those hearing aids. I mean, earplugs. We're not there, and they're awesome, and you can hear the music super well. Protect your hearing. And I want to say the mix today, like even when I had like my earplugs out for just like a quick second, it wasn't like blistering loud.
Yeah, there were a couple moments where I did take off my earplugs for a little bit just because I wanted to hear the raw sound for certain moments. Yeah, this is my first show getting those D'Addario earplugs that you recommended, and they were banging. I forget the brand, but you can like toggle between like 2 different decibel ranges, like -12 and -24 or something like that.
D'Addario. D'Addario's life.
What'd I say? Daddario?
Daddy Dario. I don't know.
Daddy Dario.
But yeah, they didn't really have an encore because they played 2 entire albums live. I don't think they really need an encore. I'm pretty satisfied. I mean, if they were to do an encore, I mean, I think they're pretty tired regardless. I really couldn't see like a better ending. I mean, they played 2 albums in their entirety. Well, you couldn't really ask for more, to be honest. Overall, I think I honestly give the show like around like an 8.3. Mainly because Union Stage fucked up. Sorry, Union Stage. You could have updated the flyer, and I think everyone would have been a little bit more happy. Like coming up, like I guess like showing up on time, or at least the time that you like started the show. And I understand like DC has like strict laws, but like they could have updated the flyer a little bit, and I was a little disappointed. Kind of hindered my experience a little bit. Overall, staff was nice. Cool. I got some cool merch.
Same, yeah. Shout out to a staff member that was wearing a Neil Breen shirt. I made his night from actually knowing who that dude is. Yeah, you know too. Yeah, nice.
I don't know if it's on purpose though.
No, he's just terrible. He's got, this is a tangent. He's got that movie Double Down, and there's a scene where he opens up his car trunk and like 100 like empty like tuna cans just like cascade out of his trunk, and he doesn't address it at all. He's like a secret agent trying to find some like satellite thing, and it just broke me. That moment truly broke me. I just couldn't comprehend anything that was happening in that film. But anyway, I'm having a tough time deciding whether to give this a 9 or a 9.5 because it's a bummer we missed half of Rivers of Nihil. But, you know, hearing how they were for the second half, I can fill in the blanks and assume they were banging the whole way through. Hopefully I can hear Clean and Focus at some other point. And then most of the score, I feel like, is just because of Contortionist's performance.
I mean, they played two albums in their entirety. Yeah. I mean, that's
I mean, that's like that time we had that evening with Between the Buried and Me, and they did the whole Great Misdirect and then a whole mishmash of like their discography. It was unreal. So yeah, I couldn't be happier. I love, you know, small intimate venue, hearing entire albums. So I don't know. I'm like maybe I'll split the difference and say 9.3. Because just so much fun. I mean, getting to see an all-time favorite band, playing entire albums in a small venue, just intimate, sweaty, surrounded by diehard fans and friends. Too good to be true. Too much dang fun.
Too much dang old fun. I'll be signing off. This is Walter.
This is Brent.
Buenas noches.
Peace.